So for today's content, it's part 3 of our series of success principles to help you expand through your business. So for the past 2 times, the 5 principles we're going to be going over. The first one we talked about was setting a clear goal and having a very firm idea in mind and being crystal clear in the amount. So you want to be very clear as far as this is the actual amount that you want, as far as if you're talking about money or success or you want a certain amount of clients. And then also on the flip side is having that intention and keeping going. And if you are not aware of, kind of the stuff I'm talking about, you need to see those ones. Especially, I go really in depth on the difference between you setting goals and setting intentions, how they're ingrained, and how to use both of those to get you moving forward in your business. So that's the first part, is having a clear goal. The second part is having a very strong belief system. It does absolutely no good to have a goal if you don't truly believe that you can achieve the goal. So yesterday's segment was all on having that belief, making sure you're aware of what beliefs could be holding you back, and then also being able to move forward and change belief. And a big emphasis in there is personal development and what you can do to make sure that you keep moving. Today we're going to be going in depth on the proper environment and making sure that you are surrounding yourself with a sphere of influence that will be conducive to reaching your goals. And then the next 2 topics after today we're going to be talking about is modeling mentors and making sure you know how that works and ingrained, and making sure that you're following good examples. And then the last thing is putting it all together with a bigger picture. And although money is awesome, that's not the focus. At least for me, it's more what the money can do for me, both in terms of feelings as well as being able to do good in the world. So those are the different 5 principles that we're going to cover. So today we're going to jump into maintaining the proper environment and making sure that you're surrounding yourself so that you can be successful. So this is a great kind of analogy, and I've touched before as far as with a ship and things like that. You can think about it. If you're setting on course, just making minor adjustments can be the difference between landing, on an oasis and wandering aimlessly in the sea. So you start off and you're not going to notice the difference and between what you're doing and say what everyone else is doing. And this idea is that as you go along and you progress, that's where the difference is going to see. A minor course adjustment, at mile 1 is going to put you distantly apart, or maybe not so far apart at mile 5, but more and more distantly apart at mile 100. But 1,000 miles down the road, 1 degree of difference in the change of course can be hundreds of miles apart if 2 ships are sailing. So just that's the idea here, is putting yourself in the environment. You can have everything properly in place. You can have everything. If you're talking about gardening, you can have the proper seeds and the proper this and the proper that, and you're doing everything organic and making sure it's all great. But if it's not in the proper environment, if your plant's not getting sun, if it's not getting water, if it's not, all these kind of factors can go in, and it doesn't matter what great foundation you have. If it's not in the place that's going to nurture and help it to grow, it's not pointless, but it'll definitely make it an uphill battle. So making sure that you're surrounding yourself and putting you in an environment for success is the whole point of today's webinar, and making sure that you ingrain that to make sure that you reach your business goals. So when we're going to be talking with environments, it's making sure that you're surrounding yourself with a good sphere of influence, positive versus negative environments, and being aware of those, comfort zones, which we've already talked about a little bit yesterday, and then also education and surrounding yourself with that. So let's make sure that you're in a happy place environment and get down into the meat of it. Overfeeding your mind. Holy smokes. This one I personally am becoming much more sensitive to and aware. The biggest thing first is to stop watching TV, which can be very hard, but this is the thing, is you have to weigh out if your goal, and that's why, with session 1 and setting your goals and making sure that you really want it, it's something that you super want, and making sure that all of these steps you're going to put into place, they're not necessarily hard, but they're different, and change is hard for many, many people. So limiting TV, although it can be hard, make sure that you have a big enough goal, but I would say it's pretty much mandatory to limit it, because the more that you spend in front of a TV, the less that you can spend on your goals. And being aware of the fact also, majority of TV, like even if you're watching the news and, well, I need to be well informed of the world, most of that is very negative, which we'll get into, on positive and negative influences. But a lot of it also, what I've noticed is, if it's not directly affecting me right the moment, it's actually just overfeeding and clouding my mind. It can, even just thinking about, if I saw an article on the news, or I saw something on the news that there was like a bear loose, I don't know, a few miles from here or something like that. Okay, it was interesting, but I was kind of thinking about it, and that's where my mind was thinking about it. So whatever you think about most of the time is the result. So instead of thinking about, success and growing my business, instead my mind was thinking about that bear that I saw on TV, and, oh, that was kind of funny and interesting. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but overfeeding it. And if you're watching tons of news for hours every day, or watching your favorite TV shows, which is awesome, but also think about it. Even when you're not watching TV, where will your thoughts be? Are they on your goals, or are they thinking about, oh, well, that was a great TV show, or what's that character going to do next week, or things like that. So just be very aware of what you're putting into your mind, both from television, because that's an easy source, but other ways that we get news feed, and like even on Facebook, and just being aware of the posts that you're seeing on Facebook can literally just overfeed your mind, and it's keeping you away from your focus on your goals, and being very selective about your sphere of influence. And throughout this whole thing, oh my goodness, I've noticed a big difference in myself, just being aware and consciously thinking about what I'm doing with my time. And even the people, I have wonderful people in my life that literally just like to talk your ear off about everything, nonsense, things that don't relate to me. And I understand that that's important to them, and I'll give them time, but also limiting that, because the more that they are filling my mind with things that are not helping me to attain my goal, also deters from me reaching my goal, because you get what you think about most of the time. So if you're thinking about success and moving forward, that's what's going to be seen in your life. And that's when we touched earlier about laser focus. This overfeeding your mind can dilute the laser intention of trying to reach your goals. So just be really, really aware of what you're feeding. Here's a great thing. So most of us, we spend all of our time looking up at what we want to become. We think that these successful people, and whether or not we're aware of it, we put them on the pedestal. You hear about success from the time that you're little, and oh my goodness, I remember when I was little, definitely in elementary school, and I guess we were talking about Bill Gates or something about that, and how he's the richest man in the world, and coming down to, well, he could give away $1 million a day and never run out of money, and just trying to fathom that. But also, it's that idea, especially as a child, wow, he has all of this. And, and I even asked my parents, well, do we have $1 million? And they said, well, we if we sold everything that we had in, our house and all of our possessions, we wouldn't even get $1 million. And putting in that sense of lack and those kind of ideas is it, from the time we're little, we look at those Bill Gates and we look at those people and we look up at them like they're giant skyscrapers, that we don't see ourselves as that. So being really aware of how we view ourselves, but also the interesting thing is that anybody really can go up the skyscraper and get a completely different view. Everything changes. It's the skyscraper still there. The world hasn't changed, but by going up in that elevator and really looking out, it's been there the whole time. It's just changing this perspective. And instead of looking up and trying to get there, work, and start rising through those floors. And, the third floor view is going to be different than the 70th, but getting up to the top of that skyscraper and looking around, you're going to realize, oh, there's no real difference between the successful people that you've idolized or can't put yourself up to. It's always been there, and anybody can rise to that level, and everything looks different, and it just changes everything about you as you're moving up those floors. And like that. And also, so we're talking about looking up and changing vantage points, and it's also about what you're focusing on. And a lot of people, if where most of your thoughts are is if you're stuck on the hard part of your businesses. Oh, this isn't working. Oh, you know what, I took this course and it was supposed to teach me this thing on this strategy for this marketing, and I'm trying it and it's not working, and that's where your focus is. That's also your sphere of influence. So be very aware of the fact that, to look at the good things and focus on the good things in your business, and to really make that the priority. Oh, you know what? This campaign is actually doing fantastic. And yeah, this one, oh, okay, it's not that great, and I'll tweak it. But focusing on feeling good about what's working well right now and diverting your attention, and that puts everything about you in the sphere of feeling good and feeling better. And then that's the sphere of influence. If you're in an environment that's very positive and we're looking at the good stuff, you're going to see more positives. If you're looking at the negatives, you're going to see more negatives, and that's what's going to pop up. And then also being sucked into the day-to-day. This is where I really fell into it with my first business. Is we were so busy working on the business, we weren't necessarily looking at good versus bad. We were just busy and sucked in, and we never had a chance to look up and take a breath and assess where our business was at. And being aware of that is, that was the influence that we were at. We were all this, there's never enough time, and that's how we surrounded ourselves in that business, and that's how we felt all the time, is that there was never enough time to get things done, and we never did get everything done that we needed to. But that's also the influence that we put it, because that was our mentality, that's how we were behaving, that was our results. And really focus, and pretty much like I've been saying, is what's going right. If everything is out there and it's not going, there has to be something that's even semi going right, and just work on that and keep focusing on that, and just put yourself in this always feeling better state of mind. And positive thinking, that you can't say it enough, but here's something to think about. Every single person, did they get it right the first time? And not just right, did they get it perfect? That for me, we talked a lot yesterday about moving forward and taking action and not getting stuck. And in that regards, the people that take action, that are successful in moving forward, do you really think they got it perfect the first time? Does anybody get it perfect the first time? No. However, it's okay. Why? Because you're making the course corrections. You're doing it, and then it can be done. And be okay to think a little differently. Most entrepreneurs just were ingrained to think a little bit differently. There's also a little rebel in there that, okay, we're not quite going to do what anybody else wants to. But I don't want you guys to just be an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs, they can be self-employed. I want all of my people to start building businesses and systems and really experience all that life has to offer by building something that literally can take you to where you want to go at the next level. And really keep that in mind. So just think positive as much as you can. And here's the power of influence. So it works both ways. If you are the happy thing around negativity, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to start to become like them, or they can become like you. So it's everybody kind of, they eventually just call all ingrained, or you get out of there. So that's the whole idea with influence. You either are bringing them up, or they're bringing you down. So be aware of that, and you need to know where it stands, or you need to remove yourself from the situation. And it's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it just has to be done. So it's just, if you are who you surround yourself with. And that being said, like with your peer groups, and I noticed there was nothing wrong with it, but the peer group that I had surrounded myself with for years and years, they were not, that's not what I wanted to be doing for the next 10 years of my life. And by changing my peer group and the people, that I associated with in that sphere of influence, has changed every single aspect of my life. So just changing the people that I surrounded myself with, literally, it's been not even a year. So the people that I associated with a year ago, they're awesome. They're amazing people. There's nothing wrong. It's just their goals and what they wanted out of life were not, you know, congruent to what I wanted. So I went and I found new people to associate with that has the similar goals. And that for me has made all the difference. So instead of trying to stay around, in this case all the blues, and try to turn the blues into yellow, or what actually happened is that I became blue for 5 years and I forgot that I was yellow. So once I woke up, realized, you know what? I'm not supposed to be here. I'm yellow. Looked around, I tried very hard to, turn some blues into yellow. Wasn't quite working, so all I did was I got out of the blues and I went to find my own yellows. And that personally has made all the difference in my life. And making sure, kind of going along with that, is you want to find like-minded, positive influencers. And it's very important, whoever and whomever. I understand not being social, and that's honestly how I identified myself as not a social person in previous years. But finding all these people with the same as me, I'm like, you know what? I actually am kind of social and I enjoy being around other people and getting the ideas flowing and all these things. I just wasn't in the right groups. I didn't find the people that meshed well with me. And, just make sure that everyone you surround yourself with is a positive influence, because if they're not bringing you up, it's not that they're really holding you where you are, they're holding you down. And I've noticed, and you're not proud of these behaviors, and I'll just say, well, you know what, it's just the way I was programmed, so I won't take it personally, and I'm working consciously on changing it. But here's a great example is one of my close friends was always trying to lose weight. So she'd go through these phases and, really hardcore, I'm doing this. And she would eat so healthy and she would exercise every day and so on board. And instead of supporting her, I would actually kind of not mock her, and I wouldn't do it out loud, but I was also doing it in my head like, oh, I know that won't last, so I wasn't being supportive of her. We would go out to eat and I'd say, oh, it's okay, you can cheat, and so we could order what we wanted and things like that. So I wasn't being supportive of her in what she was trying to do. But I also, you can justify it. I knew her track record. She'd stay on it for a week, maybe 2, and then she'd fall off for a month or so, and maybe 2 months. And then, 2 months from now, she's back on board. I'm losing weight this time. And same thing. She'd be on it for a couple weeks. So she had the pattern, but I also realized part of the thing too, although I knew her pattern, now that I'm very aware of what my feelings and all of that were, is it was actually more of a sense of judgment of myself, that I wish that I could lose weight and do those things that she was doing, but I was unwilling to take the effort. So instead of trying to join her and do a support thing together, I wanted it, but not enough, so I wasn't doing it. So I really didn't want to see her succeed. Why? Because then it rubs my failure in my face. So it actually, by not being supportive of her, whether it was mentally or, verbally, hey, it's okay, you can cheat, let's get a hamburger or something like that. When you really looked at it, it was, well, I didn't want to change, so I didn't want to see her change. And this is the power of your influencers, because if you are trying to make a change, they are going to feel it and take it personally. And if they are not willing to change with you, whether they're consciously doing it or it's deep in the subconscious, people don't like change. And if somebody sees that you're getting all this success, they're going to feel, oh, you know what, I wish I had that success. And they're going to be jealous or whatever you want to call it. And that's where this negative influence comes in. So be very aware of it. And that's why I cannot stress enough about the importance of having positive influencers. You can still associate with people that aren't going in the same direction as you. Just make sure you're not sharing all of whatever it is that you're working on, because their opinions, as much as we might like it or not, but especially at the beginning, they are going to influence and hold you back, because they're going to give you the doubts and the fears. And they can be very real to that person, but a lot of it is stemming from the fact that they don't want to make these changes that you're doing. So that's where their frame of reference is. So just to be very aware of it, because that was something that I noticed both in changing my peer group, it's a good thing, but really looking at it, oh, I don't feel very good about myself that I used to literally do that. I wouldn't support somebody on their goals because it was reminding me, oh, I would like that, but I don't like it enough to actually do it. So hopefully that makes sense on there. And so with that, things just going back into the idea of positive influences and things, it's hard, but embrace success and do your best to not be jealous of the success of others. Instead, let it inspire you. Do it together. And, this is something, it's easy to say, it's very hard to do, but get to the point that you can be a master of your jealousy, whether it's, huge, Cinderella stepsister type jealousy or just a little tiny bit. Just be aware of it and just try as best you can to just keep that positive influence with things. And then your negative influencing. Same idea. Super important to be aware of. Just like you need to be aware of your positive influence, your negative can be just the thing. Stinking thinking. We play this blame, shame, justify game. It's inherent. And I was yesterday I touched about taking responsibility for the things in your life as far as personal development goes. And it's the same thing with negative influence. Whether you're playing that game yourself and justifying, oh, I'm just so tired today. I understand why I can't do this for my business. And you're justifying it and saying you can even add some more. It's not even my fault that I'm tired. I went to bed on time, but the neighbor's dog wouldn't stop barking and kept me up all night. And then I tried to work and this. It's easy to justify. And I'm not saying that your justifications on anything are not even valid justifications, but the bottom line is justifications are just a fancy excuse. If you're not going to do it, no one can make you do it. You can have a million completely rational, reasonable justifications, but at the end of the day, it's still an excuse and the work's still not getting done. So it's just, are you getting it done or not getting it done? That's it. So stop playing those games. Whether you're playing them or the people that you're talking to are helping you playing them, just be aware of it and stop doing it. And, if you T. Harv Eker says, if you're complaining, it equals a crap magnet. And that's exactly it. If you're complaining, the world, it gives you what you think about or talk about most of the time. So if you're complaining, the world's just giving you exactly what you're asking for. More things to complain about. So if you don't want things to complain about, stop complaining and those things just disappear. So an example of that with your negative influencers, I already talked, about losing weight or something like that. And here, hey, I want to lose weight. And,
I have a valid concern and question here.
Yeah, what's up?
Why are they all a bunch of guys?
I typed in gang, so this was the best gang representation of a negative influence.
Where were you when you did this Google search? And
I just Googled gang gangsters.
Center in Beverly Hills. Since when is this a gang?
I think that it's it's a TV show or something. I don't know. It was gangs of something. Maybe somebody else knows. I don't know. I was trying to find a good looking gang. So these guys seem like really good negative influences.
I've seen the National Geographic specials. Nope, this is not an accurate.
I know.
And they're all guys. What's up with that, Lauren?
I don't.
What are we trying to do here?
Well, because usually, the bad girls are sexy, right? So we don't want you to think negative people are sexy. I don't know if any of these guys would be, sex objects. I'm not sure about that.
You're not digging the fishnets back there.
Not so much. Or how about that guy that almost looks like Eminem?
I don't know. I'm confused. All right, but just a little segment in there. Go for it.
No worries. So pretty much the idea here is, okay, so it might not be a typical gang, but, growing up, you knew that you were supposed to stay away from those people. Your parents would have a heart attack if you introduced one of these guys as your friend growing up. As teenagers, stay away from the bad guys. They always emphasize the fact that you need to stay away from negative influences. And as a kid, it's pretty easy to identify what these negative influences are. It's the bad guys. It's, the idea, okay, who's the bad kid in school? Oh, it's the goofball. It's the kid smoking behind, the gym. It's very easy. But here's the thing to not realize is that the people that are not looking like that, you don't immediately recognize them as a negative influence. They can be the people that are closest to you, that you love and care deeply about, and they can still be negative influencers on you. What do I mean? So you ask, oh, he broke up with me. You tell your best friend. Well, this guy says, let's get him back, and it's payback time. Whereas a positive type influence really looks at it and says, well, what was your part in it? And being very analytical. And it's not the stuff that we might want to hear. We want the sympathy. Oh, he broke up with me. Well, let's get him back. I mean, how many times, oh, well, let's go, you can do anything. I mean, in high school, we got back the people that were mad at my friends. We did pranks on the boys that, broke my best friend's heart. And that was what we did. But that's also, is that helping you when somebody enables these kind of behaviors? No, instead of, you need to find, and that's where mentors or like-minded people are really going to help and support you. And well, instead of playing this, the blame game, oh, he broke up with me, how awful, how rotten he is, and all of that. But it's, well, what was your part in it? It's that kind of an idea. And, being aware and looking at both sides. So on anything, just be aware of what the attitude is and the feedback that you're getting from the people that you're talking to. This is so common with best friends that instead of having, an empowering kind of thing, they'll have sympathy fests and sympathy parties. And, as girls, it's like, oh, he broke up with me. He's so mean. Let's go get ice cream. It's like, so how does that help you to make sure that you can have a successful relationship in the future? It really doesn't. Why did he break up with you? We'll look at those reasons. Maybe he was bad for you, but really looking at things and being aware of those negative and positive influences. So another thing, okay, I hear a lot of, oh, that company ripped me off. That they were so unfair. How dare, you do this, and, I had this horrible experience with this company or something like that. And you call up, your friend and you vent to them. So the bad influences, oh, they're horrible. Let's, shut them down. Let's leave horrible reviews and retaliation. I mentioned yesterday, the sports blog thing that I had saw that somebody fell asleep at a baseball game and he was made fun of by the sports announcers. And so now he's suing I don't know if it's like Major League Baseball or the company, whoever. And bottom line is, he fell asleep, he was made fun of, so now he's suing them for like $12 million. Really? How is that helping him, whatever his problem might be? Instead he got his feelings hurt, so now he wants money for it. So how does that help him become a better person? I don't know about that. So look at your influence. So instead, that company ripped me off. Well, is there anything you could have done differently? And really looking at it, maybe you didn't do your research very well. You did a really quick Google search. You found a company, you bought a product. You didn't check out the reviews online. Well, it's not saying that company was wrong. We get it. We're not saying that the company's right, but how does it help you to just, be mad and put all of this anger at the company instead of saying, well, how can, maybe next time you research more, maybe there's things that you could do and things like that. And rather you can get a better result when you're not coming even from that anger kind of form and just really looking at that. So how can this be applied to business? Well, instead of blaming things and, so many people, I don't have enough time to, do what I need to do to help my business. So if that's all you're saying and you're surrounding your people, oh, you know what, you're right, I never have time and I'm trying to start this business too and we just don't have time and it's so unfair and the government and the economy and blah, blah, blah. Or instead you work with a mentor or a like-minded person that says, and you say, you know what, I don't have time for it. And they say, you know what, you either want it or you don't. Why don't we figure out where could you make time in your day? Where could you make different choices? So this is the idea with positive and negative, both in your business and personal life. Are you getting constructive feedback or are you just looking for a pity party? You don't want the pity party. That's the enablers and those negative influences. So education, that's definitely a great thing. And you want to surround yourself, and we're talking about, environment and education. You always want to put yourself in a growing environment. If you're not learning, the idea is if you're not growing, you're stagnant. If you're not growing, you're actually backsliding because the world is always moving forward. So if you're not moving forward, you're getting left behind. So acquiring knowledge, and there's lots of different ways. You can build the knowledge literally in the real world. That's what I did when I built a business. I was, going through business school and all that stuff and was like, okay, it's good, but it's all principles and theories. I want to do it in the real world. So I did the earn to learn thing. I worked in a business. I ran the business, and then I started my own similar business doing it. I built knowledge in the real world, and I got my education by doing it. So whether, you can have it, you can read it from a book, awesome, but your real education is going to come from doing what it is that you're learning in the book. And also not being scared to invest in your education. I had a little insight I threw up a few days ago, and the idea is, why are we barely look at what the negative side is to buying a doodad. If you want to buy, I really want, an Apple computer, and I made a long list of all the pros for it. Well, I need it for this reason and this reason and da 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 da. So I looked at all of these different things, say, to buy my computer, because I really wanted it, and yes, it was a big purchase, but I made a huge long list of pros to be able to justify why I wanted my computer and ultimately go purchase it. The flip side of it is when there's an education item and it might be the same price as the laptop, but somehow instead of focusing on all the pros on why we should purchase the education, we tend to only focus a lot of times just on the dollar. But you know what? That course, man, that's a lot of money. And we're so hung up on the money or the con part of acquiring the knowledge when it comes down to education and those kind of things, or business, whether it could be a marketing campaign. Ooh, you know what? In my old business, we were willing to spend money on, buying a new animal, but coming down to spending the exact same money for a marketing campaign. Ooh, that was hard to do. So it's just being aware and really thinking about it just to be aware of, and making sure that you're always in this learning and trying sort of environment where you're not going to be stagnant and be scared to try new things. So make sure that you're putting yourself in an environment where you are willing and active and ready to change, acquire knowledge, and go out and actually apply it. And with this being said, just kind of a little thing as far as environment goes is make sure that you have a very high teachability index. And what is that? You need a high willingness to learn. So you need to be in an environment where you're willing to get all this information. But at the same thing is you need to have a willingness to accept the change that are going to come. And you need to put yourself, so if your sphere of influence is not very conducive to accepting change, you need to change that environment. If you're not in an environment where, learning and trying things and things like that is not happening very well, you need to change and work on that environment. And just kind of a note here with Teachability Index, you need a very high, in your idea in order to learn and to grow is to get it to 100%. And so you need both a high willingness to learn and a high willingness to accept change. You put them together, it gets you to 100%, and that's how you make the real results in your business, because you can learn and be open to this learning and not cut yourself off and literally, just be kind of floundering there because you're unwilling to learn and change and all of that aspects. So to be teachable, and putting yourself in this idea where you are going to be willing to implement this stuff and to empty your cup and stop being a know-it-all or making excuses. All those, negative influences that, none of my friends are doing this. We're all too old, or, that person doesn't need to do that, and all those justifications and things like that. So be teachable. And listen to the people that have the results that you want. You want to be selective, but you also, if you find somebody that has the results you want, then follow exactly what they say. And then, Gil, you're going to laugh on this one because this is totally me. It's stop questioning and overcomplicating everything. I realize that's just me. So, yeah, is that not me or what? So, but on the other hand, being able and putting myself in a good environment and working with Gil, and he knows exactly, okay, Lauren just needs to see the bigger picture so then she can shut up, her brain will be quiet, and then she'll get to work, right?
And I mean, it works both ways, right? There are some people that are like that, where they just kind of have to get the overall idea of how it works. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? It's like you don't need to learn how the whole human body functions, but how the brain's connected to the heart, your breathing, your muscles, just a general idea. That makes a ton of difference for somebody that thinks and learns that way, because for them, once they get that, it's perfect, right? They just kind of run with it, and they're good to go. So just distinguish between somebody. My tip for there is distinguish between somebody that is questioning, asking, inquiring for understanding, or somebody that's just kind of nitpicking, who's looking for, like what Lauren put so nicely, is just looking for a cop out or an excuse.
Yes, exactly. So, and then also make sure that you know where you fall on there
Yeah.
as well. I know for me and all of my mentors and coaches, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I need to see the bigger picture. That's me. I'm not going to work on changing that. I'm going to work on being able to work with it. So, in kind of that sense, and like, okay, mentor, that's awesome. I'm going to do what you say. You got to give me the overview so then my brain will shut up and let me do it. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then really just stop trying to invent the wheel of success. The cool thing is you don't have to invent the wheel. You just have to tailor it to your car. And, that's really the big thing to get going, and make sure that you're just somewhere where you feel, kind of, since we're talking about environments, put yourself somewhere that you can fully express yourself. Like, would an artist paint in, a little tiny closet with no, light? Not the best environment for that. An artist wants, they want to, have a view and bright and expansive and all that aspect, if that's the environment for doing their best work. So make sure that you just stop trying to, one, keep yourself in bad places, but also be aware, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to change and tweak a few things because I know that this is best for my success. And then, oh, yeah, that was what I mentioned before. So how can we barely debate the cons of buying a doodad, yet cringe at the price of education? And it's the same cost. So stop doing it. We all kind of do it, but just really stopping to look at it, Just, if it's important, if it can make a jump and make a difference in where you want to get your business and where you want to get you, why are you really going and stressing all over the price of education when you know that you'll drop the same amount of money, on that vacation or that restaurant or whatever it might be. I was even doing this the other day. It was a $47 thing. I was 100% sure I could get great value from, reading this product. And I did my research online. It had fantastic reviews. And yet I debated and debated over and over. Should I really spend that money? I don't know. But you know what? I'm glad I did it. I read it straight through and I'm like, oh, wow, this is awesome. Now I'll go apply it. And it was really good content. But I was so debating it back and forth because it was an education item. If it was, say, something I needed for my computer, I would buy it in a heartbeat. It's just, how come we do that and just, oh, you know what? It's something that's learning. It's not quite concrete. You can't hold it in your hand. And somehow we discount the value of an education because we can't literally touch and hold it. It's just, we need to get over that. And that's just fear of influence and all of those beliefs and stuff, and just something to work on, definitely for myself. But I think a lot of people in general feel that way, that they're not quite sure about when to invest in it. And that's why, surrounding yourself with friends and, hey, we're all going and we're spending money on personal development seminars and things like that. And this is where, oh, wow, we're not going to blink at that because you're surrounding yourself with people who value that education or those mentoring or whatever it is that you're working towards. And you're not going to be hearing your friends that are, what, you spent this amount of money on da, 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 da. It's like, No, and be selective with who you even tell your business ventures and things like that, because oh my goodness, you will hear it up and down from different people. So just be really aware of, who you're even sharing your business endeavors, who you're sharing all sorts of things with, just because their negativity can actually influence yours. And that's where we'll leave it for today.
Awesome, awesome. See, and then on another side, you just have pictures of all beautiful women.
Well, we're
And there's no
modeling.
there's no guy or dude in there.
Okay. Well, you know what? My sphere of influence.
So definitely some good stuff. Once again, I'm re-watching, restudying some training videos myself when it comes to personal development, and I'm revisiting the Born Rich series by Bob Proctor. I was absolutely stoked to see that some of these guys are actually going to be at the upcoming events that we're going to, that we're a part of, and we'll be sharing more details there with you guys. So that's another nice little resource that you can check out. And they mentioned something really nice there about mentality, right? It's really like a garden. Whether you plant sunflowers, whether you plant weeds, whether you plant tomatoes, corn, it doesn't matter what you're putting into that garden, something is going to grow, right? And unless you take an active role in planting those seeds, watering them, and that happens in the ways that we do these live sessions, right? The content that we share with you, that's the stuff that we use to feed the mind. We have other training webinars where we get very technical into stuff or talk deal structuring, business models. But part of my day, a major part of my day, that especially after restarting these series and Lauren's putting out this content, is to really focus and set aside some time to feed the good stuff in the mind, right? So awesome stuff. Tomorrow, Lauren, quick preview what we've got lined up tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to be covering modeling success. So you'll have the beautiful model picture tomorrow instead of the gangster one. So yeah,
Awesome.
maybe I'll have to go put some more diversity in there.
I'm just saying, you're in LA and you do workshops in LA, and that's the first thing that people are going to point out.
No
All right.
worries.
So that, guys, we will close our session out here today.